Hey my little peacheroonies, Clare Siobhan here and welcome back to another video. Today I have my Q&A. It is my 1.5 million subscriber Q&A, so thank you guys so much for all of the support, for helping me get to 1.5 million. It's pretty insane. I remember doing these for like much lower numbers, and yeah, I never thought I'd be doing one for 1.5 million, so thank you guys so much. There's been awesome growth on the channel recently and it's all down to you guys, so please give yourselves a round of applause for like helping this channel grow and the awesome community that we have here, so thank you so much. Also, I almost let this like milestone pass me by because I totally missed it, and if it wasn't for you guys on Twitter I wouldn't have been able to see it. It kind of snuck up on me, so shout out to everybody that tweeted me and let me know I hit 1.5 million. Also shout out to Dane, because if you're wondering where this t-shirt was, I stole it last time I was up north. Sorry bro. So if you guys don't know already, I have started a Discord. You can head to my Twitter to get the link to join it, and it's basically just an awesome place for people to chat about all the different sim series, to discuss non-sim stuff, to share screenshots, to share edits. I post little teasers and stuff in there. It's just a beautiful extra community for you guys, because I know a lot of you are wanting to join together and chat about all things sims, so this is like a nice way for you to do it and feel like you're included. No one's getting excluded there. It's just like a happy, nice place to chit chat. So I also have asked you guys on Discord for questions for my Q&A, so I'll be getting them from Twitter and from the Clare Siobhan Peachy's Discord as well. So let's get into it. Let's find out what questions you want to know as part of my Q&A. So this is the channel I set up for questions, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab some of the questions from here. I'm gonna try and start out with some light ones and then we'll go into some heavy ones. Okay, so Nil asks, what is the one piece of advice you would give people younger than you? I think this is a pretty good question because I know a lot of you guys watching this channel are younger than me, and oh my gosh, I'm gonna sound like such an old woman here. The one thing that I have regrets on when I was younger is not like appreciating, oh, you're gonna hate me for this. You're actually gonna hate me for this. But the minute you get older and you don't go to school anymore, you're gonna like miss learning, and you are gonna like realize that you didn't fully appreciate people trying to teach you stuff, because when you get older, nobody tries to teach you stuff. You have to learn everything yourself. So like, just, it's so hard to tell. Like, young Claire would never have listened to this, but if I could have just shook me and been like, literally, school is there to make you like learn as much as you can in a short space of time, and you're gonna need it all when you grow up, so just try a bit harder, just pay a bit more attention, just go to like class and like pay more attention than you do currently, because you are gonna miss the fact that people try to teach you when you get older, and life is hard and there's bills and taxes, and I just miss learning. I'm literally, as you guys know, I'm trying to learn Korean at the moment, and I can't find a single class in my area for Korean. Like, I'd have to go to London, which is like an hour and a half away. So it's hard to learn when you get older. You have it on a plate now, like just appreciate it. Sim Cirelli asks, where are you from? Some say London, some say Harrogate, but your accent reflects neither. So I was actually originally born in Leeds, and when I was in Leeds, I had a very different accent. I moved to Harrogate with my parents when I was like late teens. So Harrogate couldn't really change my accent very much, but what I did notice is I became super aware of my accent while I was in Harrogate. I even wrote a paper while I was in uni about how your accent affects your job opportunities, because I started to realize that people weren't taking me as seriously because of my Yorkshire accent. And then when I moved down south, which was probably like, I don't know, like 8 years ago now, my accent naturally started to change quite a lot just from being around people and not really hearing the Yorkshire accent a little bit more. I've always been a little bit of an accent sponge. When I was in South Africa, I started accidentally emulating the South African accent. When I go to Ireland to see my grandma, I start accidentally getting an Irish accent, and I just kind of sponge accents quite a lot based on who I'm around. So because I'm around Ali most of the time now and he speaks so nicely, I've accidentally like absorbed a lot of his accent. But as soon as I go on the phone, Ali says when I go on the phone, it's literally I'd be like chatting to him and I'm like, oh yes, Evie's getting collected from her walk at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Oh, I'm just getting a phone call from my mum. And I go straight back to like northern accent as soon as I'm on the phone. And if I spend any time up north, I get so northern again, and when I come back down south, it's super obvious. So my accent is kind of like this constant flux, and it definitely used to be so much stronger. I'm trying to think of a good example sentence. Now I'd be like, oh, what's that next to the pub? Whereas back when I lived in Leeds, I'd be like, what's that next to the pub? It's just like really different. I think if you listen to my channel, like older videos, I sound more northern, and then in certain videos, if I've been up north, I sound northern as well. So yeah, I have a really weird accent, But to Southerners, I sound Northern, and to Northerners, I sound Southern. I just don't fit in anywhere. So official Skooma asks, are you going to release more merch? After I launched the hoodie and the t-shirt, I don't really think the merch company were expecting my merch to do like amazingly well, but you guys showed it so much support that I think they were actually really taken aback. Thank you guys so much for that. They want to get on the phone and talk about some new designs, so I'm gonna have to come up with some new designs, which I'm really excited about. But also I want to try, and I'm in conversation with them to try and get a distributor in Europe as well. I don't know how long that's going to take, but I was really torn because I'm based in the UK. I have a big audience in the UK, but my biggest audience is actually in America. So when it came to merch, from a purely numbers point of view, it made more sense to launch the merch with an American distributor because most of the orders would come from there. But I would like to organize a European distributor at some point. If you guys have any ideas for merch and other stuff you want to see, I think a phone case will definitely be something. But I'd also like to look at other design options too. Then let me know in the comments below. So Liv asks, what made you start playing The Sims compared to other games? So if you look at the other games I played on my channel, they were always very story-based games. I played a little bit of like FPFs, but honestly, I like games with a story. So Mass Effect, I love. Skyrim, I love. Subnautica, that had like a discover your own story, but honestly, I got a little bit scared during Subnautica. But basically, I like games where I could have my own story, and I played Sims so heavily as a kid. Sims 1, I remember playing loads with my cousin, and then in one of the expansion packs, there was like a disc inside it. When you put it into your PC, it would give you a demo of like, it wasn't even a demo. It was literally just a tech explanation of Sims 2, and we were like, there's gonna be a Sims 2, you're gonna get a reflection on the fridge. So like, I have played Sims like literally since the OGest of OGs. So I've always loved the series so much, and then it was actually when I was at an event that somebody from the audience asked me if I would start a Sims series, and I'm like, you know what? I think that's a really cool idea. So it's all thanks to that person that I started the Sims series. And I knew I wanted to do a Sims self, and it didn't make sense to do a Sims self without having Ali there as well. It got a little bit awkward because I had to be like saying to Ali, like, by the way, we're married in Sims. Awkward because this ring one isn't even in my finger at this point. It wasn't even a figment of my imagination. Wow, the words came out strange. And then I'm like, Ali, we've had a child. Ali, we've had another child. Ali, we've had another child. Ali, we've had another child. Why do we have 4 kids? I'm not even convinced I want 1. 4? And then I had to be like, oh yeah, we're dead. So that was kind of weird, but luckily Ali knows it's just like, he took it in a stride. Thankfully, he didn't get freaked out. Because let's face it, a lot of people that play Sims in the way I used to play it as a kid, I would like make myself and then make my crush, and then we'd get married and have babies. And when I think of it now, it's kind of weird, but then I did it and made a YouTube series out of it, and millions of people saw it. So yeah, I'm probably the king of weirdness, or the queen of weirdness in that regard. So Kate Beth P asks, what are your top tips for starting and maintaining a vegan lifestyle? I went vegan 6 weeks ago and I'm loving it. It's funny because being vegan is something, or kind of plant-based I'd say, is something that I didn't talk about on my channel for ages because I thought you guys would, like, people in real life get really angry about it, even though like, you're just like, oh, can I just check, is this meal vegan? They're like, yeah, okay. But then it makes other people angry. Like, why do you always have to talk about being vegan? It's like, otherwise I wouldn't know if I could eat my food. Like, people get kind of funny about it. So I didn't talk about it on my channel, but now you guys know and you're happy to ask questions about it. I guess I can chit chat about it a little bit more. So Ali and I went vegan halfway through a Chinese takeaway. Like we were in New York and we just put it down and we were like, no more. Which sounds really hard, but it wasn't. I'd say the best tip for starting and maintaining is honestly to not do it alone if you can. So the thing that made it super easy for Ali and I is that we were doing it together, and that made things so much easier. Like the fact that I had someone by my side and all the food in the house is vegan, there's no temptation, like that makes things so much better. But then the fact that my skin improved and I didn't get as tired all the time and I had more constant moods, which is constant moods and constant energy levels is really good for YouTube. It kind of, like, for me it was very easy to maintain, and I've always had a real issue with any kind of animal cruelty and stuff like that. So I think when I started to go vegan, mentally I was just happier because I knew I wasn't contributing to that stuff anymore. So that is how it was easy for me. And also we substitute, we don't do it quite as much anymore, but we used to substitute super heavily. So we still eat pizza, we still eat burgers, we still eat sausages, we still eat spaghetti bolognese, meatballs. It would all just be meat alternatives. That definitely makes the transition a lot easier, but health wise it's just as unhealthy really as eating the other stuff. So moving towards more like health plant-based is probably a good idea. So Serena Lay asks, I would love to get into the gaming industry, but I'm 28 today. In fact, I don't have any qualifications or experience relating to it. How would you suggest I get a foot in the door if all possible? So I actually have an entire video on my channel dedicated to how I got a job in the gaming industry and given advice on that subject to kind of summarize and like kind of be specific to your situation. The way I got in is I did have a degree. I had a business related degree, but honestly, the relevancy to what I ended up doing wasn't really all that relevant. I would say if you wanted to go the same route that I went in, which was community management, honestly, the fact that you even need a degree to do that job is just stupid, because you don't. Like, if you are good, if you understand the industry, if you are good at understanding communities and how they operate, and if you're good at like knowing what people want and sort of working around their needs, you can do community management. Like, anyone who has those skills can do that job. So I would look at smaller indie companies, because in general they don't have the big list of requirements that are like, oh, to work on Microsoft you must have a business degree, at least a level of first, and all this kind of stuff. It won't be like that. Indie companies are a lot more flexible, and once you get the experience, that is like the foot in the door to jobs beyond that. I think if you can demonstrate to the bigger companies that you've got a lot of experience with an indie company and that you didn't need a degree to do amazing things, and you have great case studies of things you've done in your career, then you will find it that would be my foot in. Like, try and find where you think the opportunities currently are for your current skill set. And indie companies in general, they are a lot more flexible with that kind of stuff. Like, I'm not saying indie companies don't vet their people. I'm not saying that's what the case is at all. I'm just saying that there's a different work environment there, and it might fit somebody who doesn't have the qualifications or the experience but wants to get into that industry. Also, if you do anything like extracurricular in your spare time that is relevant to the job, so for something like community management, if you showed that you manage loads of communities on Discord and you run a group of like Pokemon Go users in your city and you help coordinate raids and all that kind of thing, that stuff is actually super relevant. If you wanted to get into game design and you actually have already learned like Python or something, maybe not Python, maybe Python, and you've built a game, like that kind of stuff is relevant. So just have relevant interest, go in at a job criteria that makes sense. It's not the easiest industry to get into, gaming, and it will suck out a little bit of your love for playing games if you're working in them all day. That is one thing I will say. But Soph asks, what is the first K-pop song you ever listened to? So when I was in uni, like this is a while ago now, I actually watched a show called, I think it's called You're Beautiful. It was like where this girl, it's stupid when I think about it, but it was a girl who was a nun, and her twin brother was meant to be in a K-pop band, but he was sick, so they had to put her in instead, and she had to pretend to be a boy. And that was the whole show. And I think that was Korean. I feel like potentially that was Korean. The music from that is probably some of the first K-pop I listened to. But the more recent stuff is we saw the documentary on YouTube Premium, YouTube Red, that was the Burn the Stage documentary. Not the newer one, the like older one, which is how we got into BTS. And then it kind of all trickled from there. And oh my gosh, Darcy, stop yowling. What is wrong with you? Wait, people have to see you first. Darcy, show yourself first. It's Darcy. Look how huge he is. So True Purple asks, what has been the best and worst thing about you being a YouTuber, and have you decided on a date for your wedding? The best thing about being a YouTuber is feeling like I have an awesome community around me. I know it sounds like, oh, it's just corny, you're just saying that. No, from somebody who actually had not a big group of friends and a kind of a bit of a lonely childhood, actually having a community of people who like me and like the stuff I'm into is actually really, really nice. And that has been like one of the best things about the whole of YouTube. Traveling is really cool as well. And getting to work alongside Ali is really awesome too. The worst thing, I would say the privacy issue. We've had privacy, we don't talk about it because it kind of is a bit of a Barbra Streisand effect. But we've had privacy issues at our house that have made my anxiety absolutely horrific. So that side of things, not so good, but in general, it's been very, very positive. And have you decided on a date for your wedding? Literally, as soon as we got back to the UK from Bali, people are like, oh, congratulations, have you set a date? Congratulations, the ring's lovely, have you set a date? Or when are you guys getting married? And I'm like, oh, are we supposed to know this stuff already? We only just got engaged. I don't even know where I want to get married. And like, that will decide if we go abroad, then you have to look at dates based on the seasons abroad and like all of this kind of stuff. So honestly, I have no idea. Probably not this year, maybe next year. So Lucky Loves Collier asks, how many children do you want in your future? Love you, Claire. I am in this really weird position where where before I met Ali, I was like, I never really want kids. Like, you can just take those parts out and throw them away. I don't want them. And then I met Ali and I'm like, you know what? I can definitely see myself having a family with this man. Ali loves little kids. Like, he gets on, he's so good with like toddlers and babies. And I'm always like, babies are okay because you just hold them and they just like blow bubbles or like whatever it is that babies do. And when they're older and you like can chit chat with them, like that's really easy as well. But for me, like when kids are in that age where like you don't really know how old they are, so anything from like toddler to like, well, it's just like about a 5-year period, I don't really know how to interact with them. Like, I don't know whether I talk to them too old. Like in America, I feel like you use baby voices more. In the UK, there's people tend to just talk to babies like they're adults a little bit more. But I find that like, I don't know how I'm supposed to talk to this child. I don't know what is appropriate or not. I remember once we met Ali's cousins and I was like, oh, do you guys play Halo? And their mom was like, no, they're too young for Halo. And I'm like, I didn't even think that. Like that scares me about kids because I don't really know how to talk to them. Doesn't help as well that I'm pretty sure I was playing GTA when I was like 9, maybe even younger. I turned out fine, mostly. So yeah, that part of kids scares me. I do want to have, like, I think we will have kids one day. Probably not a huge amount, but like, I think they're on a horizon. The thing that scares me is, as well, I am so insanely scared, like terrified of pregnancy and birth, that if we could like somehow do some science experiment where Ali had to do it instead of me, you could sign me up in a heartbeat, because I have zero interest in being pregnant and zero interest in giving birth ever. They can like make like a giant test tube and it just grows in that, then that would be great. If that technology can advance in the next couple of years, then that would really save me a big headache. So Rosin Fireflies asks, what's your favorite song and princess from Disney? This is an easy one. My favorite Disney princess is Mulan. My favorite Disney song is I'll Make a Man Out of You from Mulan. Like, easy, the best Disney song ever. Like, none of the others even compare. And Mulan was like a kick-ass fighter, so we love her. She is definitely the best. Also, the dude in that was like hot as well, so we like that one. Aaron asks, can you play Sims without CC for 1 week? No. So Arby asks, what is your favorite thing about Ali? There's a lot of things that I really like about him. Like, purely from a physical point of view, I really like how tall he is. I like that I have to like stand on my tiptoes to like reach his face. I think that's super cute. Yeah, his tallness is really cool. And I think like it makes the clothes he wears look extra cool. But from like an Ali point of view, you guys don't see it as much because you only see the side of Ali that's like Fortnite, like yelling, getting hyped, like having a like fun on like those kind of games. The bit of Ali that's away from camera is like such a sweet and caring person. Like, he is just so nice. He is literally just so nice and so sweet. And the way he is with the animals is absolutely freaking adorable. And yeah, he made me more gentle from knowing him and more softer from knowing him. And I think that's a good thing. Like, he is much more gentle and sensitive than I am, but I've like, we've kind of evened each other out a little bit. So I think my favorite thing about Ali is that he makes me a better person. Connie. And staying on the Ali subject, Emma asks, hey Claire and Ali, I want to know that when, if you ever get into an argument, how do you get out of it or make up? So I think all couples have arguments. I almost think when people are like, oh, we never argue. On the one hand, I'm like, well, maybe you've not been together for very long, because it took Ali and I a whole year to have our first big argument. But secondly, like, I feel like as a couple, you should challenge each other. But there's also like a fine line. Like, an argument where you're screaming at each other or calling each other names in our relationship is an absolute no-no. You never ever call each other names or like yell and swear at each other. I just think that's so disrespectful. And you shouldn't call your partner names, because like after the argument's all said and done, you've still called them it. You can't take that back. So just, that is nonsense. So if you're thinking of argument like that stuff, like, we never do that. But if you're thinking it more like two people disagreeing and trying to work out a way to move forward, then yeah, we do that. And I think all healthy couples will do that, because it's just part of being a couple. You're two different people with two different views and you're going to clash on them sometimes. But for us, if we do argue, we get pretty heated at the time and like passionate about what we're arguing about. But we always are super respectful of the other person. And we always also both know there's a responsibility on both of us to make it up. So if we have like disagreed about something within like an hour, usually, like if we still feel the same way, we'd be like, oh, Ali, like I still 100% think that this was that we should do this. However, I'm really sorry that I got so argumentative about it. Like, I didn't sleep very well and I shouldn't have taken it out on you. I'm really sorry. sorry, and he will do the same thing. So we're really good at apologizing to each other. We're really good at making things up, and we're also good at compromising. So in that situation, I'd be like, so I still think this, but why don't we do this thing that's kind of in between, and we can see if that works. So that is like, it's something that you have to learn. It's a maturity thing, and it's not something that a younger version of myself or a younger version of Ali would have been able to do. But when you've been together for a while and you know that that is like making up is the most important thing, and also not like the most important thing in a couple isn't getting your own way. It is coming to like, you're a team. You're meant to like get past the finish line together. So having an end goal that you're both meeting together with compromise is a better result than one of you reaching it and the other person being stuck at the back, if that makes sense. But yeah, that is how we make up from arguments and how we argue, which is respectfully. So Cute Siobhan, I have said my own name wrong. Cute Siobhan asks, what is the furthest you traveled, and would you ever emigrate to somewhere like Australia? So the furthest I ever traveled was Bali when we went recently. Talking about Bali again. But we were on the first plane for like 8 hours, and then we had like I think it was like a 2-hour layover, and then we were on another plane for like 11 hours. So it's a really long journey. I'd love to go to Australia. I actually really want to go and see Delhi in Melbourne, but that's pretty far. We have to plan that one out. It's going to be like a 26-hour trip or something. So Bali's the furthest I've traveled. Would you ever emigrate? Honestly, it would be so hard to leave where we live. We have a really nice life here. We live out in like a foresty kind of place. It is so beautiful where we live. Up north, it's really pretty as well, but it's more like rolling fields and like farms and like old trees, if that makes any sense. Whereas where we live here, it's like new forest, like pines, super closely packed together, like really tall. It just feels like I'm in like Skyrim or something all the time, and I love it here. Also, I like that in the UK, like last summer is really hot this year. It was really hot last year, but we do still get like seasons and cold winters, so I get to like bundle up with like loads of layers. I like a lot of England. Our politics at the moment, hard no. But other than that, like when we're more united and happy, I do like England. It would be really hard to leave that. But if I was gonna leave, I'd have to go somewhere warm, because I definitely prefer warm weather. Also, it's really hard to get your dogs to Australia. So I couldn't go anywhere without the little bean who's lying on the floor here. Okay, final few questions. So Ayman Barwadi asks, how did you feel when Ali proposed? So I don't know if this all got fully captured in the video, but I was in the hotel room. Ali was like, there's been an issue with payment, so I need to go to reception. So I was just like finishing off getting ready, but he seemed pretty nervous. So I'm like, I actually sent a WhatsApp to my mum saying Ali seems really weird. And then I was getting ready and I'm like, something's not right. I kept checking my phone because I thought if he can't make the payment, he's probably going to message me and I'll have to transfer some money over. So I was checking my phone for that, but nothing was coming through. Then I got a knock on the door and I like came out thinking it was Ali, but it was actually Yuda who was looking after us while we were in the hotel. And he was like, oh, here's a box with the first clue. You need to follow it. And at that point, like, I don't have my phone on me. I'll try and remember to add the picture to the video. But at that point, I like immediately started crying. Like immediately was just totally overwhelmed with emotion. And my face just instantly like ballooned up and I was crying. Reading the first one, I sent my mum a picture of me crying, being like, what's happening? And I had to like use a mirror to like decipher the first clue. And then the next clue was further down the track. I came out of the villa room and immediately fell down the stairs and tore my dress because I was so nervous. You just like catching me like, oh my God, what is this girl doing? And then he got to the bottom of the stairs and he's like going the hidden way. And I was meant to walk up the trail, but I was so like tunnel vision and panicky that I just started following him. And he's like, no, Claire, go that way. So I had to go back up this trail. I was like so emotional the whole time. I could barely walk. I'm just holding this box, shaking like a leaf. I get to the first clue and I can do that one because it's just one thing to flip. I'm like, okay. I get to the next one and it's like all pictures of like the family and the cats and all pictures from our whole relationship. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And it said, there's one that's turned over already. It says flip me. So I flipped me and it said find the, and it was a picture of Evie. I'm like, find the dog. Oh my gosh, Evie's here. Evie's in Bali. So I'm like looking for Evie, like a big Egypt. Left all the other clues. I was meant to flip all of them and it would read out like find the, like I had to go to like the reception lobby and there'd be like a car waiting for me. No, totally didn't do that. Started walking to the beach. People in the hotel bar and restaurant are just looking at me. I'm crying and shaking. I go to like one member of staff and I'm like, is this the right place? And they're just like, what are you talking about? And I was just so panicking, like so panicking. My dress is ripped. I'm in pain from falling. I'm holding this box and just trying to hold my bag and everything. I'm just like, And then again, they had to come and collect me and bring me the right way. And then when we got to where he was proposing, and he said he kind of went into like a really like a bit of a zone, like he was making a video at that point. He was super emotional until then. And then he was like, right, I need to get this right. I need to say my speech. I need to get on one knee. I need to do this. And I was like, like bawling my eyes out, got over to him, like boo-hooing. My hair's like, because it was so windy. And he's like saying all of his lines and I'm like, and then he goes to hand me the ring and I'm meant to take the ring off or like give him my hand and he's meant to put the ring on me. Instead, I just grabbed his head and was like, and just like held his head here. If you look at the proposal video, you see the moment where he clearly like is meant to put my ring on and they had to cut because I just squeeze his head. And he's like, what the hell are you doing? Just get off me. I need to put my ring on you. And I'm like, but then afterwards I calmed down, but up until that point I was a wreck. So how did you feel when Ali proposed? I felt all the things. I felt anxiety, stress, crying, happy, like overwhelmed, in love, like scared. Every emotion you can think of is what I felt. And then final question, Anna asks, any webtoons you recommend? I love reading webtoons. There's actually an app called Webtoon. That's the one I read them all on. It's like green. Some webtoons I recommend. I really like Lookism. It's kind of violent and fighty, but it's good. There is one called Ella Seed, I think it is, which is like, it's based around a cat. It's really cool. True Beauty is really cool as well. It's a bit like My ID is Gangnam Beauty. No, My ID is Gangnam, whatever that one is. It's a bit like that. It's really good. There is one called Siren's Laments, which is about mermaids. That one's really good. There is My Giant Nerd Boyfriend. It's really good as well. That's like a daily one. Oh my gosh, I read so many that it's actually quite hard to keep up with them all. Yeah, there's just so many good comics on there. Go on the app and see which ones are popular and you'll probably really enjoy them. I like to read my webtoons before bed at night. Like I have my little sleepy tea. I turn on my, I put my candle on and I read a webtoon before bed, and that's like my night routine. And I love it. So yeah, they are the ones I recommend. True Beauty is a really good one to start with because it gets you into it super easy. Lookism, the artwork gets a lot better and the story gets a lot better later on. So yeah. And that is my 1.5 million subscriber Q&A. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope I didn't bore you. And maybe I'll do another one if we ever manage to reach 2 million. I really hope that we do, but I didn't ever expect us to reach even 1.5. So I feel like, I don't know, if we're like a peach juice container, surely we're like here by now. I don't know how much more room we've got, but thank you guys so much for getting us to this point. I appreciate you all so much, and I love that I've got like my little peach-a-roonies on my peach squad. You guys are amazing, and I hope I answered as many of your questions as I could, and I'll see you guys in another video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.